Welcome to Workplace HSE Explained YouTube channel. This is a NEBOSH construction certificate series explaining its concepts and topics. I still remember the first time I walked onto a major construction site. The noise, the dust, the movement, tower cranes swinging overhead, rebar jutting out like steel thorns, workers balancing on scaffolds that seemed to touch the sky. And in that moment, one thought hit me harder than the heat of the sun. Every single person here is one mistake away from a life-changing event. That's why construction safety isn't just a rule book. It's a responsibility, a duty, a moral obligation. And today, I want to take you deep into the NEBOSH International Construction Certificate Foundations, starting with why construction safety truly matters. When NEBOSH talks about moral reasons, it isn't theory. It's the human cost behind every statistic. Construction remains one of the most hazardous industries worldwide. Falls from height, struck by incidents, electrocutions, collapses. These aren't just categories in a report. They are fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, real people whose lives can be changed in seconds. And as someone responsible for safety, I can't ignore that weight. NEBOSH emphasizes that every worker has the right to return home in the same condition they arrived. That right is universal, across India, across Asia, across the world. ILO OSH 2001 reinforces this moral foundation by stating that protecting workers' lives and health is a fundamental human value. It's not optional. It's not negotiable. And when I think about the moral reasons for safety, I'll think about the long-term impact of accidents, the trauma, the disability, the loss of income, the emotional suffering of families. NEBOSH wants us to understand that behind every unsafe act or unsafe condition lies a potential tragedy that could have been prevented with the right controls, the right training, and the right culture. In India, the moral argument becomes even more powerful when we look at the scale of the construction workforce. Millions of workers, many of them migrants, many of them unskilled, many of them unaware of the risks they face daily. The OSH Code 2020 and the BOCW Act were created not just to regulate work, but to protect these workers from exploitation, unsafe conditions, and preventable harm. When I walk through a site and see a worker climbing without fall protection or lifting loads manually without training, I don't see a violation, I'll see a life at risk. And that is the heart of the moral case for safety. NEBOSH also highlights the moral duty of employers, supervisors, and safety professionals to create a culture where safety is valued, respected, and practiced. A culture where workers feel empowered to speak up. A culture where shortcuts are not tolerated. A culture where leadership leads by example. Because when leaders care, workers care. And when workers care, accidents drop. As we move deeper into this series, remember this: construction safety begins with humanity. It begins with empathy. It begins with understanding that every life is priceless. And that is why, before we talk about laws or financial consequences, we must first understand the moral foundation that NEBOSH builds upon. In Part 2, we'll explore the legal reasons, ILO conventions, employer duties, enforcement models, and how India's OSH code aligns with international expectations. Stay with me, because the legal framework is the backbone that turns moral duty into enforceable action. When I first began studying construction safety, I realized something important. Moral duty gives us the heart to protect people, but the law gives us the backbone. It turns intention into obligation. It turns responsibility into accountability. And in the NEBOSH International Construction Certificate, the legal reasons for safety are built on a global foundation. Primarily the ILO conventions that shape how nations protect workers. As I walk you through this, imagine the construction site again, but this time through the eyes of the law. ILO Convention 155 is the cornerstone. It requires every country to create a national policy on occupational safety and health. It demands that employers ensure, as far as reasonably practicable, that workplaces are safe and without risks to health. And ILO Recommendation 164 expands on this by outlining practical measures, risk assessments, safe systems of work, training, emergency planning, and worker participation. When I read these documents for the first time, I realized they weren't just legal texts. They were a blueprint for preventing suffering. ILO OSH 2001 takes it further by defining the responsibilities of employers, workers, and governments. It emphasizes a systematic approach: policy, organizing, planning, evaluation, and continual improvement. NEBOSH expects us to understand that these principles form the legal backbone of construction safety worldwide. Even if countries differ in their laws, the underlying duties remain the same: identify hazards, assess risks, implement controls, and monitor performance. Now let's connect this to India. The OSH Code 2020 consolidates and modernizes safety legislation, aligning closely with ILO principles. It places clear duties on employers: provide a safe workplace, conduct risk assessments. NEBOSH also highlights the importance of enforcement. Laws mean nothing without compliance. Around the world, enforcement agencies, labor inspectors, safety authorities, regulatory bodies have the power to inspect sites, issue notices, stop work, impose penalties, and prosecute. In India, inspectors under the OSH code can enter sites, examine documents, interview workers, and require corrective actions. And globally, the message is the same: if you ignore safety, the law will not ignore you. But legal reasons go beyond penalties. They protect businesses from civil claims, criminal liability, and reputational damage. When an accident occurs, investigations look at whether the employer met their legal duties. Were hazards identified? Were workers trained? Were controls maintained? If not, the consequences can be severe: fines, imprisonment, shutdowns, and long-term loss of trust. As a safety professional, I've learned that understanding the law isn't about fear, it's about clarity. It tells us what must be done, who must do it, and how it must be achieved. It creates structure, consistency, and accountability, and when combined with moral responsibility, it forms a powerful foundation for preventing harm. In Part 3, we'll explore the financial reasons: how accidents impact productivity, insurance, downtime, reputation, and long-term business survival. You'll see that safety isn't a cost. It's an investment that pays back in every direction. Financial reasons for construction safety. When I first started working with construction companies, I noticed something interesting. Many leaders understood the moral reasons for safety. Most understood the legal reasons. But when I showed them the financial impact of accidents, that's when their eyes truly opened. Because in construction, every incident has a cost, visible and invisible. And NEBOSH makes it clear: safety isn't an expense. It's one of the smartest financial investments a business can make. Let me take you back to a site I visited years ago. A worker slipped on an unprotected edge and fractured his leg. Thankfully, he survived. But the financial consequences? They rippled through the entire project. Work stopped for hours. Investigations began. Equipment was seized for inspection. Supervisors were pulled away from their tasks. Productivity dropped, deadlines shifted, and the contractor faced compensation, medical expenses, and penalties. One moment of unsafe practice cost the company more than an entire year of safety training would have. NEBOSH categorizes financial reasons into direct and indirect costs. Direct costs are the obvious ones: medical treatment, compensation, repairs, legal fees. But indirect costs, those are the silent killers: lost productivity, delays, rework, damage to equipment, increased insurance premiums. Loss of skilled workers, administrative time spent on investigations, and the biggest one, damage to reputation. In construction, reputation is currency. Lose it, and you lose contracts. ILO OSH 2001 reinforces this by emphasizing that poor safety performance leads to economic losses at every level, individual, organizational, and national. When workers are injured, families lose income, companies lose efficiency, and economies lose productivity. It's a chain reaction that affects everyone. Now let's connect this to India. Under the OSH Code 2020 and BOCW Act, employers may face penalties, prosecution, and compensation liabilities for unsafe conditions. But beyond the legal consequences, Indian construction companies face intense competition. Margins are tight, deadlines are strict, clients demand reliability. A single major accident can push a contractor out of the market. I've seen companies lose tenders because of poor safety records. I've seen clients blacklist contractors after repeated incidents. And I've seen insurers raise premiums so high that projects became unviable. NEBOSH also highlights the financial benefits of good safety management. Fewer accidents mean fewer disruptions. Well-trained workers are more efficient. Proper planning reduces rework. Preventive maintenance extends equipment life. Strong safety culture boosts morale, reduces turnover, and increases productivity. When I walk onto a well-managed site, I can feel the difference. Smooth workflow, clear communication, organized storage, controlled hazards. And every bit of that translates into financial gain. Think about it this way. Every rupee spent on safety saves many more in the long run. Guardrails cost less than hospital bills. Training costs less than downtime. PPE costs less than compensation. And a strong safety reputation attracts clients who value reliability. NEBOSH wants us to understand that safety is not a burden, it's a competitive advantage. As we move into Part 4, we'll bring everything together, moral, legal, and financial reasons, and close this series with a powerful message about leadership, culture, and the future of construction safety. Stay with me, because the final part ties it all together. As I stand on any construction site today, I often pause for a moment and look around. The workers climbing scaffolds, the welders shaping steel, the masons laying brick after brick. And I remind myself everything we've covered so far. The moral duty to protect life, the legal framework that enforces responsibility, and the financial reality that safety is an investment, not a cost. But NEBOSH doesn't stop there. It pushes us to understand something deeper. Safety is ultimately about leadership and culture. Without them, even the best systems fail. ILO OSH 2001 emphasizes that leadership commitment is the driving force behind effective safety management. And I've seen this firsthand. When leaders walk the site, talk to workers, ask questions, and demonstrate genuine care, the entire atmosphere changes. Workers feel valued. Supervisors stay alert. Hazards get reported. Controls stay in place. But when leadership is absent, safety becomes a checklist instead of a belief. NEBOSH wants us to understand that leadership sets the tone for everything that follows. In India, under the OSH Code and BOCW Act, employers are legally responsible for providing safe conditions. But compliance alone isn't enough. True safety comes from a culture where workers feel empowered to speak up, where supervisors prioritize planning, and where everyone understands that shortcuts are dangerous. I've walked onto sites where workers proudly show me their PPE, their permits, their training records. And I've walked onto others where fear, silence, and rushed work dominate. The difference is always culture. NEBOSH also highlights the importance of worker participation. Workers are closest to the hazards. They know the risks better than anyone. When they are involved in risk assessments, toolbox talks, and safety committees, the quality of controls improves dramatically. ILO OSH 2001 reinforces this by stating that workers must have the right to be informed, trained, consulted, and represented. And when workers feel heard, they become active partners in safety, not passive followers. Another key element is continual improvement. Construction sites evolve daily. Hazards change, workforces change, equipment changes, and that means safety systems must evolve too. NEBOSH teaches us to monitor performance, investigate incidents, review controls, and learn from experience. Every near miss is a lesson. Every audit is an opportunity. Every inspection is a chance to strengthen the system. Safety is not a destination, it's a journey. And now, as we close this 4-part series, I want to bring you back to that first moment on the construction site. The noise, the dust, the movement, the risk. Everything we've discussed, moral, legal, financial, leadership, culture, comes down to one simple truth. Every life on that site matters. Every worker has a family waiting at home. Every worker has dreams, responsibilities, and a future. And we, as safety professionals, supervisors, engineers, and leaders, have the power to protect that future. NEBOSH doesn't teach safety as a subject. It teaches safety as a responsibility, a mindset, a commitment. And when we apply these principles, when we combine empathy with compliance, planning with leadership, and systems with culture, we create construction sites where people don't just work, they thrive. So as you move forward in your NEBOSH journey, remember this. Safety is not about avoiding fines or ticking boxes. It's about protecting people, strengthening businesses, and building a world where construction is not just productive, but safe, dignified, and humane. Thank you for joining me in this 4-part series. If you found value in this content, make sure you subscribe to Workplace HSE Explained, because we're just getting started. Together, we'll continue building knowledge, building confidence, and most importantly, building safer workplaces for everyone.